News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset. 800-288-WBAP is our number. That's 800-288-9227. This airline, Finn Air, is weighing passengers now. And they're saying it's not mandatory, it's voluntary. And they're saying we're not going to share the weight info or in your flight data or anything with anybody. This is, they said we did this last in 2018, and it's been 6 years. We have to recalculate. We need to know we want to optimize our current aircraft balance calculations. And by the way, before you think this is some kind of a BS thing, listen, I didn't know this. And pilots, flight attendants, and such listening, love when you guys call in and share intel with us. But I learned a while ago that the airlines, like the carpeting on the plane, it is not. It's specifically made for airlines. Did you know that? Because the carpeting, the weight of the fiber and the weight of the carpet itself is like a big deal. You know why? Because it's a huge game changer for the weight that the engines can lift, if you will, for lack of a better term. I don't know, I'm not an expert, and for the gas or the fuel, and so every scintilla of weight goes into that aircraft. It's pretty amazing. I never knew that. I was really blown away by that. But like the fiber and the carpeting is made for airplanes. That's it. You don't want it in your house. It's made specifically for an airplane to be as lightweight, as durable as possible. And then I can guarantee you, based on my knowledge of that means the seats are probably the same thing. Everything, the plastic, the aluminum, whatever is involved in the plane, has got to be as lightweight as possible so that they can have as many fat passengers get on there. I just threw that in there. I'm just seeing if you're awake. I'm messing with you. It's getting late here. Now I need some help down here. Finn Air will start to collect aircraft cargo data. The airline said passengers' volunteered weight information will be anonymous and used to optimize Finn Air's current aircraft balance calculation. This last was done in 2018. Determine passenger weight average. Quote, we use the weighing data for the average calculations required for the safe operation of flights, not linked in any way to the customer's personal data. BS. No, I'm just kidding. We record the total weight and background information of the customer and their carry-on baggage, but we don't ask for the name and booking number. Right, you just do a little facial ID and tag it, right? I'm just kidding. But I want to know if you would support airlines doing mandatory weigh-ins. Would you support airlines doing mandatory weigh-ins so that people who are over a certain weight would have to pay extra? I would. If it means that our airlines are going to if it means that my airfare overall is going to cost more, then yes. And based on what I've told you and based on what you probably heard, this is basic information over the years, the heavier that plane is, the more they have to spend on fuel, right? And fuel costs are tremendous. Huge part of their, in fact, when you see Joe Biden, cutting production on this and that, and you see that kind of stuff, and they show that when there's issues with producing fuel in the country or there's a shortage, that airline prices skyrocket, and so that's how critical it is of their budget. And so, I think that there should be a standard that we all pay based on our weight. And I think that there can be a simple formula. It can be generous a little bit so that you can be, 25 pounds overweight or 30 pounds overweight? I don't know. At some point, somewhere around 25 or 30 or 35, somewhere in that area, okay? We'll say 30. Every pound over, you get charged a percentage more. And that determines the cost of a baseline cost, perhaps for all the airlines or from each airline that wants to do this. And it's not about shaming people. It's about making you pay your fair share. And don't the liberal Democrats always say, hey, you got to pay your own fair share? Billionaires aren't paying their fair share. Well, let's have you pay your fair share. I want you to pay your fair share. And if you're morbidly obese, I'd like you to pay for whatever it means you have to. I don't want to subsidize your eating issues. It's that simple to me. How about you? Would you be on board with that? Where based on your weight, you are charged, everybody pays the same for the tickets, the way that airlines, charge us right now based on demand and supply, et cetera, right? They can have sales or anything. I'm just saying that for the prices, the base point where it starts at, the base price, should have a formula in it for weight. And I think that should happen. I really do. What do you think about that? Would you do that? Would you be on board with that? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. I think about the other stuff, too. I think about the stuff about people who are morbidly obese, taking up 2 seats, and talking about, I want my free double seats here because it's a right. That's, size shaming or, fat shame. Get out of here with that garbage. If you take up 2 seats, then you should pay for 2 seats. And on the same token, I just think that when the airline has to pay for fuel, and that's part of your ticket, and that's factors into what your ticket prices are based on the cost of fuel, then that really is a direct link. So this is not trying to punish people for being overweight. This is not trying to go after fat people. This is trying to say, pay your fair share, like Joe Biden says. Pay your fair share, like all the Democrats say, with taxes. Why should I subsidize you? And the whole statement of pay your fair share from the left on taxes and such is because why should we finance them? I don't want to finance you. You don't want to finance me. Baseline for everybody, weight over a certain poundage per pound. You start adding on the pounds. That's what should happen. I bet you we overall would have cheaper tickets for average weight people. Buzz and Prosper, you're on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. Hey, Buzz.
Hey, two points. First, it's a weight imbalance. One of the reasons they want to know the weight is they do a standard weight and balance based upon an average that's determined by the FAA in the United States. So what they're probably trying to do is see, on an average, what the average weight will be so they will have more accurate weight and balance. And the other thing, I've been on a plane that has less than half full, and they make you a bunch of people sit in the back because it's not just your weight, it's where your weight is distributed, the weight and balance.
Wow. And go ahead.
And then the last thing I was going to say was, if you're looking to charge for weight, then wouldn't it be logical that if they have a half-loaded airplane, they should give you a refund because they're not using as much fuel?
You know what? That's not a bad idea. You know what, though? Let me. I'm just throwing stuff out here. I don't have a position on this, but that sounds like a good idea on its face. I would say too, when that flight is half full, aren't the tickets cheaper anyways? Because they want to get rid of them. They want to fill it up.
Usually, well, if you're buying at the last minute, sometimes they are, but sometimes they're not because they know you're stuck and you have to buy it.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. It's kind of an interesting because that's when you add in demand and supply, which I was saying should be a part of it too, obviously, and it already is, right? So that's interesting.
But more importantly, rather than trying to charge by weight, I don't think that's an issue, and I honestly don't think they should do that. What I think they should do is, if you're over a certain amount, that you may have to buy a second seat. Because how many times have you been on a plane next to some big burly biker guy? I got stuck one time in a middle seat with 2 people that probably weighed 300 pounds each, but it was the last seat on the plane. I had no choice.
Oh my gosh! Now wait, were they morbidly obese? Because a big burly biker guy is not a morbidly obese person.
No, this was definitely obese.
And were they falling over the seat rail or whatever?
They were all into my seat, yeah.
Did you say something to them like, hey, can we do something? Or did you talk to the flight attendant? I mean, how long was the flight?
No, I didn't even get into it because there's nothing to be done. I'd go on another flight, and I didn't want to do that. Yeah. And it was a short flight.
Okay, well,
to me, if it's a certain size, they need to buy the second seat.
Yes, they absolutely should be mandatory. And I think the weight goes into that, where you could just say, hey, man, we have a standard thing. If you're 50 pounds overweight, you're fine. But if you're over 50, or whatever it is, for your height and weight, it just is what it is. Well, I'm big bone. Doesn't matter.
Well, the airlines are afraid of being attacked for attacking someone's weights. I won't mention the airline, but I know of at least one airline that if you're over a certain size and you ask for a second seat and explain why, that you will get the seat and you won't have to pay for it.
That's Southwest Airlines. That's Southwest.
You got it.
But the problem with that is there's some issues with that too. I mean, if they have the seats open, I don't think anybody cares. But if they're not, that's a big problem. Buzz, I appreciate your call tonight. Great call. Appreciate you. All right, we got Brad and Colleyville. We'll talk to you, Brad, coming up next on the Chris Crock Show on News Talk 820 WBAP. Also want to hear from you about, do you think it's okay? Should we start weighing passengers on airlines so they can pay their fair share? Should we have to pay for their fair share more for the fuel costs, which is a lot more for them than it is for us? 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. As I said, we'll talk to Brad in Colleyville next, plus your call. 3 lines open, 800-288-WBAP. News Talk 820 WBAP, and now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset. Chris Crock Show. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Finn Air will start weighing people, but they're just saying, well, it's just to be anonymous, and we're not going to tell anybody. It's just to balance do our balance calculations, and we do it every 6 or 4 years or so. I think they should make us weigh as we get on, or I think they should make us weigh. Maybe you have to have a doctor's. I don't know what, but there's a way they could do it and charge us more if we weigh over, let's say, 30 pounds more than overweight, and you pay per pound or per 5 pounds maybe. I don't know. But it costs a lot of money for the weight on planes. That just is how everything in the plane design is, and the jet fuel is very expensive. It's a big part of the budget. What do you think about that? And I suppose we should also throw in the issues we've been talking about too, with overweight people taking up more than one seat, and how selfish it is for them, and they should be forced to have 2 seats. That is selfish and rude, and the airline shouldn't make it an option. We should not have to suffer. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. Do you think airlines, all of them, should weigh passengers and charge them extra if they're overweight by a certain amount? Or should we pay extra for those who are morbidly obese? I don't want to pay extra for them. 800-288-WBAP. Let's go to Brad in Colleyville. You're on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. Hey, Brad.
Hey, I was going to just say, so in a situation where somebody's short or somebody's tall, and I can tell you that I work out and I stay fit, but muscle actually weighs more than fat. I mean, as they've reduced the size of these things. I mean, I'm 6'5". I'm just kind of curious how that's gonna weigh in. Considering I'm not trying to be the out of shape guy, I'm trying to be the guy that's in shape. But yet, I can't control how tall I am. What am I supposed to do? Cut my legs off?
Yes, I think you should cut your legs off, and that is an issue that you. No, I'm just kidding. But I do think that was obviously a joke. But look, as you know, with your height, how tall are you again?
6'5".
Woo, dude! Wow, you tower over me, sir. Now here's the deal. I think that, as you know, people of your height or my height, we all have an average weight. And.
Yeah.
So for me, at about 5'9.5", just almost 5'10", but the average. So I'm a midget compared to you, sir. But the average height weight for me, I mean, for me, it's about 565 to 570 is for me personally, with my sort of weight loss.
Yeah.
One of my sponsors, I've done real well with that. But, when I've been super bad, sometimes over this past 6 years, sometimes I got a little super bad, I get thwacked and I got to tie it down and kick some butt and take some names for a month to buckle back down. I could get up to 170, 175. Basically, if you're between 165 and 180 for me, that's completely normal. And for you, there's a range within probably 10 pounds over and under that your doctor would be like, you're fine.
Yeah, it's for me, it's like 210 to 220, but it's like, am I getting charged extra for just being tall?
Because you're already
a pain to be in one of those commercial grade seats anyway, because there's no room for my legs. And
do you have
just,
to
smashed in there? And
what do you do on that? Do you have to get the seat for your legs so you don't have to deal with it, or do they usually accommodate you?
I usually have to pay extra for an exit row if I can get it, and then sometimes I'll pass the exit row and there's this somebody that's maybe 5'2" in the exit row, and I'm going, my God, could I just?
That's incredible.
I'd like to be able to at least not have to fold my knees into my chin.
Dude, what do you do? I mean, you literally barely fit in there, I guess, huh? When you're in a normal seat.
It's horrible.
I would imagine.
Horrible. And they used to have this space on American Airlines, and then they said, "No, we're going to go back to regular space," and that's why I flew American.
Dang.
Because of the space, and now that's changed. And it's like everybody's, well, let's make it smaller. I could say the seats must be made for Japanese men because
Exactly.
it hits me in the shoulder blades.
Exactly. Well, I'll tell you what, though.
Headrest.
But remember this. I do feel for you, my friend. I really, really do. But I would say this, though, is that, average height, weight, that was my proposal was saying, whatever your height is, that's whatever the average is in there. That's fine as long as you're not over like 30 pounds was my proposal. But obviously for your height, the weight's going to be different. I appreciate your call, Brad, and I sympathize very much with you, sir.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad you're one of the good guys since you're so tall. You're on our side, buddy. Shelby and Euless, you're on News Talk 820 WBAP and on FM at 93.3. Hey, Shelby.
Hey there. How are you doing tonight?
Good. How are you?
All right. Just had some comments you were saying about charging people. Well, let me tell you something. It's a protected issue. It's going to fall under the ADA guidelines, which is American Disabilities Act, so you cannot discriminate against people for their weight. I don't know if you're aware of that, but I do work in the industry.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you work in the airline industry?
Yes, I do. And it's one of those things that's covered.
What kind of, you don't have to be I'm not trying to find out what you do exactly, who you are, but I would say, what kind, are you up in the plane, or are you on the ground there? But you still would know this, obviously, with one of the airlines.
I've done both.
Mm-hmm.
Been gate agent, so I know about seats and requirements and things of that nature. And it used to be the airlines would sell you a companion seat if you were a large person.
Yes.
And you would call in. They would sell you a companion seat for 10% of your original fare. So your fare plus 10%.
Dang.
I don't know that that's still going on, as I haven't been in reservations for years and years.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
I wanted to ask you, so you're certain from your experience that it's against the ADA Act, but, I mean, certainly if somebody takes up more fuel, and, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, again, as the gentleman said before about weight and balance, that's why you count the babies on board as well as the larger passengers.
What if somebody's 1,000 pounds? They still have a right to just have one seat?
There again, you would have to make do with the seats. I've seen it where you've actually been on an oversold flight and someone was so large they had to take up both seats and we had to buy somebody off the aircraft. There wasn't anything we could do about it because it is a protected thing.
But why couldn't you just say, hey, I'm sorry, the airline is full and you need a second seat with your size, so we're going to have to book you on a different flight?
They will call the American Disabilities Act. You will have a fine, and you will, yes, if someone is uncomfortable and they know they're extremely large, generally speaking, they will know better and they will get themselves another
I bet
seat.
you see a lot of selfish people out there that try to get away with this.
Oh, yes, of course. And, of course, everybody's got their challenges these days. Everybody has a problem. Everybody has an issue. Yes.
By the way, I'm not saying you personally, I'm saying when somebody stuffs their face and eats out of control all the time, which is a lot of the reason why many people are morbidly obese, obviously, it's to me, it's not a disability at all. I'm sure you agree, but you're just citing what your job teaches you.
Yeah, at this point, you can't, who can judge? Because, I had an uncle that can eat everything out of the garbage can and his wife doesn't, and she's got a weight problem and he has nothing.
Interesting. Shelby, so I appreciate your call. You're a great caller. I look forward to your next one and love to hear from our airline friends, okay?
All right.
Thank you. Take care. All right, well, you can definitely tell she's been around the block with this stuff. Very interesting. I'm going to search on this online and check it out a little bit more. Also, speaking of travel, this is terrifying. These two women from Kentucky go to the Bahamas, and they claim they got drugged and raped by employees of this resort on the island. That's next. News Talk 820 WBAP, and now on FM at 93.3. In just a moment, I'm going to be telling you about, it's Chris Crock Show, of course, 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. That was very, very fascinating on the call there with our airline worker who's been both up in the air and on the ground, in the sky, on the ground, all over. So the airlines with regard to she was talking about the persons with disability. That's interesting. about that. I don't know. I'd have to look more deeply into this, though, because we do have a passengers. Here we go from the Department of Transportation, their Bill of Rights. Oh, boy. It's lengthy. I'm not a lawyer here. It's going to take a long time. But I'll tell you this. I'm not going to dispute that she's an airline employee, and she says that the Americans with Disability Act. But, dude, I got to say this, though. I'm going to be honest. I'm still skeptical. I don't know, and I'm not saying she's wrong, but I'm still skeptical because how is being overweight a disability? Can anybody tell me that? Because right now, let me tell you something. I could go rogue. My wife can tell you I can take down, if I want to, a half a gallon of ice cream in one night if I wanted to. I don't care if I want to rip through it. That's not good. I don't do that ever, but I can, and I used to. So, I mean, if I want to get to that weight, dude, I could easily get to that weight. Give me about 6 months. And it's a choice at that point. How is that a disability? I don't see how that is. Producer Garrett, you said you can do it in 6 weeks? No way, dude. No. He said he went from 185 to 201 1 month. Oh, 15 pounds in 1 month. You're an animal. I like that. You just chose to pig out. Is that right? We're going to have to get on a lawyer because it's going to take too much time for me. A couple of minutes in a break during the news is not going to give me enough time because I just don't see how that's a disability if you're choosing to gorge yourself and become obese. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Now, this is a terrifying story, and I want to talk about it because you and I, a lot of us, especially in DFW, we go to the Caribbean, right, for vacation. A lot of us do. The DR. I know of a wonderful couple that I'm friends with. In fact, they're one of my sponsors. Kids Beach Club, after-school Bible study program, and international broadcast, teaching kids Bible character that are grades 3 through, I think it's 3 through 7, 3 through 8, and when they're most formidable. And it's an amazing thing. It's an after-school Bible study club at schools, public schools, and their television show that's renowned all over the world. All done out of DFW here, the headquarters and everything. I'm dear friends with them. Been a sponsor of mine for a long time. kidsbeachclub.org. And my friend Jack Terrell, the president and CEO of Kids Beach Club, the founder, he and his wife went to the DR, and they loved it. But there have been some past things. And I've been to Cancun twice. Love it. Same resort. Always go. Like it a lot. Went to Jamaica, and seedy stuff happens. Bad stuff can happen. You know that? And my one of my relatives worked in some serious government work with foreign governments and intelligence stuff, and they always tell me to check the State Department. Because it'll tell you, and this person taught me, and it's pretty interesting, before you go to another country, even if it's Europe or somewhere you're going to feel safe, you just check it. Because they're going to tell you, for government employees, where it's safe to travel, where it's not safe to travel, like where their employees are. Some areas in Mexico, Jamaica, since I've been there, there's some areas that they say do not travel there day or night if you're a government employee because it's that risky. If they won't let their employees go there, what does that tell you? But then they also have a separate thing on the same website where you can see for non-government employees and what the recommendations are. When I was looking at Jamaica, dude, like freaking Kingston apparently is a hellhole, murderopolis, God knows what can happen to you, gangland. So, like, they're like, do not ever go to Kingstown in Jamaica. There's all sorts of interesting things. But it was terrifying. They talk about carjackings. I'm like, whoa, like crazy stuff that you don't want to do. And when I was in Jamaica, I had two separate people offered to sell me weed. They just said smoke, and I thought they meant cigarettes. It took me, I'm that, out of it. I'm like, that. I'm like, no. And I'm like, it was kind of it was offensive to me, but I'm like, whatever. My wife said, let it go. And then one guy was offering, in addition to marijuana, he was offering to take me on an excursion. I'm like, no, I'm not going with you somewhere off this place. I mean, I was like, what the bleep? So the other thing is, we had a guy in Cancun. I don't remember his name. I could Google it and find it right away. But there was a horrible situation where a man and his wife went to Cancun, I believe it was, from memory. I could be off on that, but from memory, I believe it was one of our residents here in North Texas. He and his wife went to Cancun. They got at the bar. They were at the bar. Everything always involves alcohol. That's your number one thing to remember. Or leaving the premises of the resort, which I pretty much never will do. But the guy went to Cancun with his wife, and they separated at the bar at night. She went up to the hotel room. Big mistake. Do not ever separate from your spouse when it's just you two at this place, at any of these places. And so she made the mistake. I don't want to blame anybody. They made the mistake of splitting up. She went upstairs to the bedroom or to the room, and he stayed there at the bar. And then, an hour, 2 or 3, 4 later, she's like, "Where's my husband?" Gone. They, within 24 hours, like, where the hell is he? He's missing. He's gone. And then they finally, a day or 2 or 3 later, they find his body in I believe it was Cancun, but not in the resort part of the island. There's like another side of the island where it's a city type, and some people are like, "Oh, let's go there." I'm like, I ain't going there. They found him in, and I don't. Obviously, it's where the locals live. I don't know, but they found him in an abandoned apartment complex or abandoned apartment building, or at least the unit was abandoned, and he was beaten to death, and he was hanging out of a window, half naked. I think. I mean, this is insane. So how did he get out of that resort? Did somebody talk him into doing something? Did he get inebriated to the point where he was being an idiot and somebody talked him into going out and hitting the bars on town, and then, boom? You don't separate. And you better be careful if you're going to do alcohol, man. You better be with your husband. Don't ever leave him anywhere. And this happened. Now, I caveat that. And my questions for you, and we've heard of people in the DR and some other places where there's other places. It's not just those two I mentioned. There's a whole bunch of them. But I think it was the DR, but it could be another one, where they were drinking and they were getting poisoned. There was another thing where some of the residents, or not residents, but some of the vacationers, like you or I, on a second story, leave their patio screen undone. You know what I mean? It's unlocked because on the second floor, they're on a balcony. They don't have to worry about it. No, they get up on the second floor. They open it up. They took chloroform. They put it on the woman. They knocked her out. This happened to somebody here in the Metroplex that my wife is friends with. It was like, are you kidding me? They chloroformed them. She thinks, thank God, they didn't sexually assault her, but they chloroformed her and her husband, and they stole their wallets and everything. And she believes unequivocally that it was the resort employees, some of them. And so I'm going to ask you this now. Do you think what dangers have you heard about when vacationing out of our country, especially in the Caribbean locations? To me, that's where some spooky stuff can happen, but I know it happens anywhere. So what dangers have you heard about when vacationing out of our country, especially in Caribbean locations? And, it seems to be something with the beach, the drinking, the, partying atmosphere. And what do you do to take precautions when you're out of the country on vacation, whatever country it could be? But what do you do to take precautions when you're out of the country on vacation so that these types of crimes don't happen to you? 800-288-WBAP is the number. I want to hear from you on this. Call in now. Chime in right now. 800-288-9227. What dangers have you heard about when vacationing out of our country, especially in the Caribbean? And what do you do to take precautions when you're out of the country on vacation so that these types of crimes don't happen to you? 800-288-WBAP. That's 800-288-9227. Now, these two Kentucky moms were allegedly drugged and raped, they say they were, by Bahamas resort staffers. But today, a news story comes out from Fox News saying the resort is refuting their sex attack thing because of closed camera, closed circuit TV. This is crazy. I'll give you the details of this scary incident, and I want you to tell me how you protect yourself and what you do to keep safe when you're on vacation in other countries. That's next on the Chris Crock Show, News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset. Chris Crock Show, 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. It gets really scary here. But I want to hear from you first on this is, what dangers have you heard about when vacationing out of our country, especially to me in the Caribbean locations? And what do you do to take precautions when you're out of the country on vacation so that these types of crime don't happen to you? And even if it's out of the country for, into Europe somewhere, or My older brother and his wife went to Morocco several years ago. This is, I believe, before COVID, but which is regardless, but just to give you a timestamp on it. I think it was before that. And I said, "Oh gosh, be careful." And he's like, "Why? What do you mean?" I'm like, "Dude, it's it's a Muslim country, so there could be a radical Muslim element. You know what I mean? I mean, dude, it's in Africa, and I believe it's the northeastern tip of Africa." Let's see here. Yeah. It's because why? Because Morocco borders Algeria. Do you think Algeria's and it borders Mauritania, the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, which is a pro-terrorist state, and Libya and Tunisia are on the other side of Algeria. So I'm not saying, I didn't want to, it's connected to Spain. I understand, but dude, it's on the continent of Africa and it touches terrorist-friendly nations. So that's dude, Algeria. Just say that. On the other side of Algeria is Tunisia. On the other side of that's Libya, and touching Morocco is the Mauritania, the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, where Joe's illegals have been flying in from there, and they're not supposed to be here. So I'm sure it's an amazing place, but I would always be concerned in a Muslim nation for radical Islamists. Not that I wouldn't go. I'm not saying I wouldn't go. But I just, he's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Dude, I just be careful. That's all. Watch what you're doing. Don't go with anybody on the street who's like, hey, watch out. Don't get in the car with somebody who's not, clearly safe. You know what I mean? Don't take an Uber with some dude who you don't know who he is. I wouldn't ever. Okay. Now, here's this horrible situation. And to make matters worse today, the resort is saying they're refuting what these women allege in their rape. It's just terrible. So you don't want this to happen to you. Two moms say they were drugged, raped by Bahama resort staffers. Longtime friends said their first kid-free vacation ended with trauma, broad daylight assault when they decided to go to the beach. And they did an excursion. So they got off a Carnival ship for the day. They go to the beach for an excursion. They're there. They're relaxing on Grand Bahama Beach. A resort staffer offered them a 2-for-1 drink deal. They accepted, took photos with the drinks, one a pineapple, one the other coconut. That's normal. That's not something you would be worried about. And it's an excursion with the Carnival Cruise Line, right? So you feel safe. They have a relationship. That's not what these women will tell you. It was a horror show. They accepted. They took pictures with the drinks. They soon felt the drinks were much stronger than expected. Even their loved ones back home grew concerned when the women sent back videos where they seemed to be highly intoxicated only 15 minutes after their first sips. That's beyond a red flag. Less than a few sips into the second drink, we knew something was wrong. Something was terribly wrong. We went to look for seashells to bring back to their kids when a male resort staffer offered to show them the best spot to find shells. Don't go anywhere with somebody that's off to the side, man. That's your red flag. But if you're highly intoxicated, you don't have reason, maybe. And maybe not because it's your fault with the intoxication. Next thing they could recall was waking up while she was being assaulted by a uniformed male staffer, she claims. I came into the process of my rape. The men accused of the nude assault are on surveillance footage. They identified him. One had been employed by the resort only a week. Two men, 40 and 54, arrested for it. They say their allegations weren't handled. The cops didn't administer proper rape test kits, they say. This is horrifying. On the cruise ships, the moms received their toxicology test. They showed a plethora of drugs. This is where it's like all four-alarm fire, including benzodiazepines. They had almost no alcohol in their bodies and had bruising up and down their legs. To see things that showed up in my toxicology screen was just traumatizing all over again, said the woman. Back in Kentucky, they've hired a lawyer. They're receiving medical care, including, God forbid, a $4,000 HIV prevention medication. God help them. State Department issued an advisory a week before they went. And this is why I'm telling you, I'm not blaming them, but I'm telling you, this is why my loved one told me with the government, go look at the State Department website. They didn't. They're blaming Carnival. Why didn't they warn us? Well, dude, it's your responsibility as a traveler to look this stuff up. I don't blame Carnival in that regard. The advisory that they could have caught if they looked at it advises travelers to exercise increased caution when visiting the Bahamas due to crime and gang-on-gang violence. 18 murders in 1 month alone, dude. It's not better in the Bahamas. Remember that song? Yeah, it isn't now. They're going to be hit hard by this tourism. Who the hell wants to go there now? They're very expensive, and with this, the resort's saying if there's a conflict in the women's allegations, that their assaults, their alleged allegations conflict with the 16 time-stamped surveillance videos they saw. Wow, this is horror now. To be told that they don't match means you might not be telling the truth, and now I don't know who's telling the truth, but I believe these ladies still right now. This is crazy. While there's police actively investigating the Grand Bahamian authorities say, we've terminated the employment of the two, blah, blah, blah. But now it could go into what's been in these other countries before. He said, our cops say this, their cops say that. Oh, no. So be careful. That's all I wanted to say to you is be careful.